The eureka moment came after I'd been making things for Hannah and for Gabriel for a number of years. I certainly had been channeling this need to make things. My wife often says that I'm running in a horse race and I'm actually the only one on the horse. I'm the only horse that's running. And of course that image is just so staggering. this one man going hell for leather on this horse, and there's nobody else in the race. My first real memories of making art was in third grade art class, and the teacher was named Mrs. Moore, who always wanted you to paint inside the lines. I have nightmares about her. We had to do busts, little heads, and I remember making a little head and really just loving it. And it's a tortured soul, kind of horrific, kind of like the shriek or the scream or whatever, and being very proud of this. And yet I remember being ashamed because I ended up getting a C- in art class. You know, you had to behave when making art. Children are fundamentally uninteresting. That's the way I think about it. I mean, they're pretty boring as a general rule, really. I mean, once you get past the cuteness, there's not a lot there. They're pretty simple. So how do you make their lives, experiences interesting, and how do you have a part in it? And how do you make them happy? I started building stuff for them and for myself as well, to make them interesting to me. They want stuff immediately. I mean, as fast as you can do it. And I guess in retrospect, that proved to be a wonderful educational technique. I mean, how cool would it be if every art student was simply dumped in a preschool for a year, you know, and we want this. No, this. Give it to them now. And so then, as they got older, I was able to use more, caustic techniques. But I was still building stuff for them, except that then people came into the house and I was building stuff for other people. Since I was making art for myself and for my children, it was all scattered on the floor. It was on the walls. It was in places that people wouldn't expect. It was to keep interested in my children interested in me, and us interested in each other. It was all over the place. And I think that sparked people's imaginations. There's always the hard edge of irony in a lot of the way I made things for my kids that were not dark. A child won't understand true darkness, but they will get irony, that this is a little off, this is a little strange, and oh goodness, a dragon in fact eats people. I mean, in most of your good stories. And so it has to have large teeth. It can have a slight smile, as though perhaps it would enjoy eating you, or it might pass a conversation with you before eating you. But in truth, a dragon is something to be slightly scared of. The best thing, though, is when Gabriel says, "This is my favorite." And yet he had to walk around something. He says that about the Wings of Daedalus. He loves that piece. But he had to walk around me in the dining room, gluing on feathers onto this thing for weeks. And yet he can still take that leap of imagination that this is something else. This is not something that took place on my kitchen floor. It's something else. And that's amazing. You ask about things deteriorating. That's not as important to me as the simple act of creation. I was never brought up, I don't think, to see art as something that stands still.